Here's the deal.
Because it's true.
They had an advantage in multiple areas. They had an advantage in the cold. Okay, those guys, I know that's cliche, but you could tell when you watch the game, like the very first third down, 27 for the Chiefs is going bowling in the alley, dude. He's just head down. I'm going to fucking take some bodies out with me. And guys were Pacheco on the ground, the guys on the front, like they had an advantage in the elements, even though they were dropping the ball. And I will say this. I thought if you were going to tell me coming out of this game that they were going to have like 4 drops and it was going to come from one guy, who do you think I would have said I'd rather it be?
We know the answer.
Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Okay, because he's not going to do that again.
He's not going to do it twice.
Okay, so that's good. I also thought if you want to encapsulate this game in one human being, it's L'Jarius Sneed, who might be one of my favorite players in the league. He might be top 3 for me.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm not saying he's top 3
I've been
player.
beating this drum for some time.
We love L'Jarius Sneed, bro.
From the day I met him in Kansas City. Well, I never met him. He doesn't talk.
He doesn't
just
talk.
Plays football. That's all he does.
He just plays football. But you know what he did? On one of those third downs and we'll talk about the penalties, it moved from 3rd and 8 to 3rd and 13 after a cheetah false start. He jammed this motherfucker so good, and I posted it online, and it kind of went off a little bit because I don't know that everybody saw it, but he jammed him into the ground. Okay, like the physicality that they play with. There was a ball in the third quarter, I think, that took forever to get out to Waddle, and Snead comes top down on this thing. He slings Waddle out of bounds. Waddle didn't catch the ball. This is my favorite moment of the game, Kyle. He slings Waddle out of bounds. Waddle doesn't do anything. Snead stands there, turns towards the sideline. He's on the opposing sideline.
Yes.
They're all huddled up in their coats, and he stands there until the refs are ready to move him off of their
They're
sideline.
like, let's go. And then he leaves with no
He's
protest.
He's mugging these guys. Nobody says a fucking word.
The coolest shit ever.
That, to me, I have chills right now. That is alpha energy. And those are the guys. If I had a DB like that on my team, bro, he's my best friend.
And then they got a center by the name of Creed Humphrey.
Taking people to salt
52,
mines.
Who was fucking snubbed on the All-Pro team, by the way. They should add a third slot just because of this situation, But he was out there with no sleeves, just taking these fuckers to the salt mine.
Surprised he didn't die, Kyle, because that's what happens to people when they wear no sleeves.
He's
and
built
-30.
different. He's from Oklahoma.
Pacheco was out there. Pacheco's from Jersey or wherever he's from.
Yeah, Rutgers.
No
they
sleeves.
don't care. But I will say this. The run game was great, and they started off in heavy doses of big explosive runs, but it was the pocket that Patrick was sitting in that had me so impressed. It was the middle 3. And you know what? I always reference the New Orleans offense with Drew Brees back in the day, the vintage. It was Jari Evans and Carl Nicks protecting the interior. And it was Trey Smith, and it was Joe Tooney, and it was Creed Humphrey protecting the integrity of the center of the pocket. Patrick was stepping up. He felt comfortable back there. And, there were some drops on the back end, but there were some big plays, too. Rashee Rice, what did he go for, 180, 160?
He went for enough to hit the props.
Just
Kyle.
throw him the ball.
Except I had a 2-touchdown Rashee Rice prop that
Travis
paid
won't
out
do
10
that
to
again.
1, and it was a tackle.
Travis won't do that again.
He won't do that again.
You sure?
But it's the defense.
I'm positive.
It's the defense,
sure?
right?
I know he won't do
It's
it.
the defense, or was it the lack of the Miami Dolphins?
Here's what it was. It was all, and I don't want to jump out of the gym. I've been Mr. Pound on the table for Kansas City. I was puckered up for them to lose and me going to the set of Inside the NFL because I kind of got hot at my teammates there. They all jumped me on Kansas City after one of these losses, and they were like, "Oh, they suck." And I was like, "Who's going to Kansas City and beating them in the playoffs?" Well, the nice thing is nobody. Because now they got to go on the road. But I think the 2 biggest advantages they had were the coaching advantage, okay? And I think McDaniel's a really good coach. I don't agree with everything he did down the stretch this year. And what he does at quarterback and where he weighs in on that is going to have to, that's going to be important too. But third down penalties for these guys. You talk about going in the elements, third and manageable, where Tua can throw a quick, easy throw. Let the players make plays on 3rd and 5 and that sort of thing. There were numerous third downs from the first drive, 3rd and 8, false start. Okay, 3rd and 1, illegal formation after Tua skips the ball on 2nd down. 3rd and 9, false start, Tyreek. 3rd and 4 with 10:15 left in the game, you go delay of game. Okay, that's unacceptable. Okay, so you can talk about the advantage in the cold, the whole thing. They weren't disciplined enough, and maybe that's because they were thinking about the damn weather. I don't know what it was, but these issues have popped up with Miami all year long, and that just tells me they weren't ready to go, and Kansas City was. But, Kyle, to your point, I think the most important thing in this game, and something that we should be wary of when they go to the next round and the next round, if they get there, is Mahomes, we talk about the receivers and how bad the receivers have been this year. We have not talked about enough the tackles. And I told you guys this coming into the season, I did not like the additions of tackle. Okay. And the tackles have not played well. And Miami having 3 guys down on the edge, which is a reality. Okay, Miami, you could probably feel like there's a lot of excuses that you can take, but what's the excuse in the other 8 to 10 games you played against good teams over the last 2 years? Okay, but without good rushers on the edge, Mahomes had enough time to bake a cake when he wanted to. And I think him not having pressure on him, it allowed him to work through things, especially in the elements with his receivers. And maybe if you got the tackles right this year, we wouldn't be talking about the receivers. And so I just think that's a little bit of a perfect storm thing. The last advantage is the biggest one, the quarterback. Okay? Tua is not him. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but he's not him. He's a guy that I think is a good dude. I root for him. He's overcome a lot. He's a solid quarterback in the NFL. But you want to talk about, we were talking today, I said 3 weeks ago that maybe he's not the answer, and I like whispered it because I'm like, you know, when you say things and they haven't come to fruition yet, you're like worried that people are going to be upset. And people are upset when you say things like that.
It's like my Justin Jefferson trade idea.
Yeah. So ask yourself this question. That's funny. That's really funny. Ask yourself this question, Kyle.
It's not funny.
I think it's instructive here. If you're talking about moving on, and I'm not saying you need to move on, I haven't done enough research on Miami's cap situation, the capital they have, like the players that would be available. How short is the list of teams that would trade for Tua? Anybody got one?
No.
I can't
Okay,
think of one.
it's a short list. How long is the list of players that you think you would be able to win with down there in this offense? There's a few that are out there that I'd be like, that's an upgrade. Okay, Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray,
Justin Fields.
He
can throw the deep ball.
I'm not even talking about the deep ball. That's a tired old thing. It's
tired. It's wired.
It's true, but it's true. And I was killed for saying it. But he does not throw the deep ball well. Okay, but I'm not going to put that deep ball on him. There's ugly weather out there. It was tough to throw the ball.
But he does that in.
Okay, I'm just trying to be fair, Kyle.
Buddy.
I know, buddy. But here's the deal. When he throws that pick, and this is Steve. This is Spags, man. We talked about the disguises being the key to this game. Kyle, they're in quarters pre-snap, then they're in 3, and then they rotate late to 2-man. And encapsulated in the whole thing is like the coaching advantage and the quarterback advantage, because Tua just throws it off his back foot, just fuck it, waddles down there somewhere. And there's pressure, but there's not pressure with a capital P. Now the other guy that we were comparing, that some people were saying Tua belongs in that category, or anybody I named not on that list earlier, if you're putting him in the conversation with Mahomes, you're smoking crack or bath salts if you're in Florida.
Yep.
Okay? But like Patrick Mahomes, I saw a clip of Bill Belichick last week, and he was talking about before a game where it was very cold and windy. He was on the sideline. He's like, I say we throw the ball. He said, people aren't expecting it. That's not the game plan people think you're going to roll out with, but if you got a guy who can throw it, you throw the ball. Okay? The first 3 plays of the game, you have the confidence in your quarterback to throw the ball 3 times. Okay? The first 2, Kelsey drops one, he sails one. They zoom in on Mahomes. His face says to me, holy shit, it is hard to throw the ball out here. But here we go, I'm going to do it anyways.
Yeah. Yep.
And as Kyle, as you put before, his ball cuts through the wind. Okay, I saw him make throws Sunday or Saturday that I got chills thinking about it. Not because I'm thinking it's cold out there, because I'm thinking that guy's so fucking good, dude.
Yeah.
That he's out there in that wind, in that cold, delivering the strikes that he delivered. There's a big difference in who's on one sideline under center and who's on the other sideline. So I just think it comes down to coaching, quarterback elements, and you knew what was going to happen.
Man, those fans are awesome, and I give a tremendous amount of credit to the Hunt family for directing fans to they tailored the rules to loosen them up a bit for what fans were allowed to bring into the stadium. You were allowed blankets without zippers. You could have batteries to use heaters.
That's right.
Bring this and that, and the third you could bring cardboard.
Yep.
They know that that's part of the advantage.
Yep.
And it showed. Obviously, the better team won, the better quarterback won, but I got to give a shout out to a well-run organization.
I want to shout out my dog Shane O'Brien from Missing Curfew, which is, of course, a great hockey podcast, one of my favorite podcasts. My boys from the Bus on Bonnaroo, those guys, are a good time. And Shane, I did not know was going to be at that Kansas City game. He went with his lady friend, I guess. And I texted him to ask him how it was. And he was like, longer. It was fucking cold, man. And that's a hockey player saying that. He's like, how did you do that? What's the coldest game you ever played in? I think in Philly, that last game was 0 and -8 maybe. But at least it was sunny, and the wind chill was -8. You played in that Dallas game. Me and Nate were talking about it.
2014, Monday Night Football, 8:15 kickoff, Dallas Cowboys at Chicago Bears. I think it was -7, and it was 20-mile-an-hour wind.
How many people died?
My matchup.
Okay, good. Jason Hatcher?
It was Hatch, who is
he's the man.
The best guy
awesome.
In the world.
But he was cold.
And if you don't follow Jason Hatcher on Instagram, you need to do it because it's great. But Hatch was like 35, and he was like, long, like my neck is bothering me.
Yes, oh yeah.
Hatcher, it was the year that Hatcher had to get the cowboy collar.
Yep.
And he was lining up literally a yard and a half off the line of scrimmage.
Yes.
Because he's so long and tall. He can play with that. But I was trying to close that space, and he was not comfortable in that cold.
I don't think Miami was comfortable in that cold, and I think Kansas City was. And I think sometimes it's not that simple because there's the quarterback and the coach. But I also think one team they basked in it.
How warm was it in Andy's jacket?
Oh, it had to be so warm. The mustache wasn't warm.
Just like I just want to crawl up in there.
All right.
Let me ask you something. For a franchise like Miami, where you potentially might have to do this for years to come when you go into the playoffs, how can you properly prepare for elements like that?
Draft Big Ten guys. No, honestly, hey, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Let me ask you at home something. How many points does a Kirk Cousins-led Dolphins offense score Sunday?
More than 7.
More than 7.
In the cold?
Okay? Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying anybody. I'm saying like whether it's Kyler, whether it's...
And Tyreek probably doesn't have to wait on that deep ball.
This wasn't all about the cold. It's also about ultimately, and it was going to be about ultimately, the quarterback at some point. And I know for the Dolphins fans in the chat, I have nothing against the Dolphins. I really don't. What's happened over the last 2 years is your fans can be so insane that eventually I resent the fan base. But I know there's a lot of cool ones. But you have to admit that quarterback is a problem. It is. It's not. He's not the reason you're winning. The reason you're winning is because of, at times, that defense, which was really beat up. And I totally hear you. I thought they could have made a run with that defense, but they were just too banged up. And, you know, how do you fix it? You go out and you fix it at quarterback at some point. And if you don't, you better have the #1 defense in the league, and you better hope and make sure that you beef up the offensive line to give him a perfect amount of time so the pocket's clean, and you better hope that Tyreek and that Waddle stay 2 of the fastest guys on the planet for the foreseeable future. There's a lot that has to go right the way I describe it, right? You got to have a perfect offensive line. You got to have a great offensive play call. You got to have fast guys outside.